Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Edgar Brown. Hey, Edgar.
Hi, Laurie. Nice to be here.
Oh, great to have you. Edgar is an executive coach, and he's also the founder of Principal Growth. We're going to find out all about what that is. But first, Edgar, tell me, you have such an interesting journey, and it's on your website, how you got into coaching, because this is not the path you would think you were going to take. So, how did you get into coaching?
That's right. I'm not sure if it's the path that anyone knows that they're going to get into early on. My path to coaching, I would say, is somewhat unique. I've always been the type of person who is excited about helping the people around me grow into the best versions of themselves. So whether it being growing up in Montreal and Toronto in Canada, spending time around friends, around family, and around people in my environment, I found a lot of people would come to me to solve the problems that they were working on or to work through issues within their lives. But I would say I really got deep into it during my career in tech. So I studied at McGill University in business and computer science, and I started my first company out of college as a 21-year-old, super passionate, excited entrepreneur, someone who wanted to dive right into the weeds. And later on, I worked also in tech for companies across New York, San Francisco, and Toronto. But I was thrust into this leadership role for the first time. The company was scaling super quickly. We went from 3 to 20 million in revenue in 12 months. And at 25 years old, I was tasked with running marketing or growth for this $8 million projected business line. And I was hiring a team for the first time too at that age. And so I really felt as though I had a gap in terms of the vision that I wanted for myself as a leader and how I wanted to show up at work. So I sought out an executive coach. I worked with them, and that was the first time that I had tasted what it was like to be coached as well, not just me supporting others, but also being coached. And for me, I would say that really inspired me to continue to dedicate the rest of my career towards being that coach that I needed at that time. And today I still work with many entrepreneurs and operators within tech to help themselves scale at the pace of their businesses.
Wow. Okay, you're right. That's not your everyday normal path to coaching. But I did hear you say something that were you aware that you were coaching before you actually knew what coaching was? Because that seems to be the path
Mm.
that most coaches take. It's like, oh, I can get paid for what I've been doing all this whole time. Wait, let me try to make this into a career. Well, did that happen with you also?
Yeah, I had no idea that it was called coaching back then. I
We
just
didn't
thought it was
either.
being me, right? Like holding space, being human, helping people process what's on their mind and doing it with no judgment. Like I think those things are really core human principles. And I think it's beautiful that in a field like coaching, you can actually hone those skills and improve at that. I remember when I did my certification with IPAC, one of the first things they focused on was listening, like active listening, right? And they broke down those three different levels. Like there's listening to like your average listening, where people will hear someone speak, but they'll be ready to interject whatever's on their mind right away. Then there's listening, holding space for people, paying attention to body language, not just the things that they say, but how they're actually showing up. And then there's that level three intuitive listening, which is what they call it, which is like, what's the deeper message that's going on behind these people's thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, and how can you reflect that through acknowledging or validating, which I'm sure, as you know, are coaching skills, so that that brings more awareness to the person. So that's where I would say it differentiates between the everyday showing up for people, but then also the specific skills that come from coaching.
It's interesting because the biggest lesson I goes I had been in corporate and climbed the ladder and all that. I say, well, I know how to listen and I know how to ask questions
Right.
and when you get there you go, no, I don't. I thought I was
Yeah.
doing the right thing, but after you break it down, it's like it's just a whole different ballgame. So, and I always tell people, even if you don't become a professional coach, whatever you learn there is going to enhance whatever you do. So it's
100%.
interesting you mentioned listening because that I think was the most important lesson that I had. Was that your important lesson, or did you have more? I'm sure you had more, but was that the biggest?
Yeah, I would say too, the listening piece for sure was a really big one. I would say another one was this idea of thought, feeling, and action. So the thoughts that we think every single day influencing our emotions, whether sadness or anger or fear, and how that shows up and shapes our actions. And then IPEC, of course, has their 7 levels of energy. And at each level, it defines how you show up in those situations. But I think the real unlock for me was understanding that you can be intentional about choosing the thoughts that you want to adopt in a certain situation. And then as a result, choosing a feeling and being able to show up at a higher energy level or at a higher pace or energy state for the people around you and how that influences your team, your family, your community when you choose to be more open as opposed to show up from more of a place of fear. So I would say that's a big one.
That's so funny. And it's like we were in the same class because I remember because they asked, it's like, well, what do you think comes first, thoughts or feelings? Everybody
Mhm.
raised their hand on thought, and I went, feelings. I really believed, oh, you feel, and then you figure it out. And it took me a long
Mhm.
time to say, wait a minute, you're not wrong, I am. But yeah, that was even an important lesson. So definitely that listening and that creating and all of that. So how did principal growth come about? I mean, you said how you got there, but what is the goal? What when you created it, what did you have in mind?
Yeah, so principled growth is my coaching practice. So I mainly work with 2 types of individuals, tech entrepreneurs that are scaling their businesses and have reached an inflection point where now they're not just doing all of the work themselves, but they're hiring a team and they need to scale as a leader in order for the company to get to its next level. The other persona that I work with a lot are tech operators or tech executives. So these are typically mid to senior level professionals across marketing operations, design, product management, etc. Where similarly, early on in their career, they would thrive by being the best in the room at their craft, either the best designer, they're amazing at writing copy for marketing or finance, even. But once again, they're now in positions where they're managing teams, where they're responsible for people. And so there's a shift in skill set that's required there too. The other thing that happens very often for people that are either entrepreneurs or high performers in tech is this sense of burnout. Like they don't have enough time in the day to get everything that they need to get done, to get accomplished. So prioritizing the right things to work on, being able to take a step back for strategic decision making and then also implementing habits and systems so that they can show up healthy, so they can show up present, and so they can show up as the best version of themselves, both for themselves, for their businesses, for their teams, for their family. Those are really the things that I focus on at Principal Growth. And in terms of the way that it came about, really, as I was going through that coaching certification after working for many of these scaling, whether venture-backed startups, private equity-owned startups, or running my own companies in the past, I really wanted to develop my own approach to sustainable growth. So, in every one of these environments, right? Every business wants to grow, every person wants personal growth. We're always striving for more, especially in the world that we live in. But I find that often people get lost, or as I would say, out of alignment. So, out of alignment means that they're not living according to principles. Maybe they're not clear on those principles for themselves. Maybe they're missing this North Star for their career, for their personal life, or maybe they haven't gotten specifically clear on the way that they would like to show up and then build a life and a career that actually matches that. And so, what I do with my clients is we start by getting very, very clear on this long-term vision for themselves, not only at work, but in their families, at home, and in that broader sense. And then over a 90 days, 6 months, and sometimes 1 year period, actually taking those steps towards getting there. So that's a little bit about principled growth.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question that is so obvious, but I need to know. What does scaling mean? It's all over your website. And what does that mean? What are they climbing? Is that what that means?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a very tech word,
Oh,
and
good.
I
I said,
think
why don't I know this? I should know this, but I didn't.
yeah, no, definitely. There are all these different jargon in any industry, but
Right.
in regards to scale, so typically you'll differentiate growth or marketing are usually the initiatives that a company is running to grow the business. So that could be performance marketing like Facebook, Google ads. That could be content marketing, creating content on social media. That could be referrals. That could be outreach. But having a really clear growth strategy is very important for any business. Scaling is more about the company itself. So think things like the team as it grows, the size of the team, the types of people that you're bringing on, the culture that you're building, the systems that you have in place to onboard new hires and to scale the processes that you were running individually. So I would differentiate growth as the outcome that you're looking for the business and then scaling as the actual growth of the business or the company as you move forward.
Okay, an action verb. All right, I got it. I said I think I understand, but I really didn't. So I thank you for I appreciate that. It reminds me I did a workshop for NASA, and I was so
Mm,
amazed because they felt that their people needed not touchy-feely, but they needed something a little bit more personal because they're dealing with statistics and science
yeah.
and things like, and I said I was so in admiration that they realized that. And I think I'm feeling the same thing about you. It's like, yes, tech people know their stuff. They know what scaling means, but they know their stuff. But it's what does how do you combine the other part, the coaching part? Where does that come in? How do you get it in there?
Good question. So, what I often find is that outside of even coaching, I do a lot of mentorship within the tech ecosystem, specifically in Canada and in the US. So, there are a few accelerators that I mentor at, as well as universities and helping their alumni grow and scale in their careers, specifically McGill University, which is where I'm an alma mater from. Um, and I find that often the people that find out or are looking for executive coaches, they come with these specific operational goals. So for the entrepreneurs, they want to hit revenue goals, they want to build that growth strategy that we spoke about before. Or for the leaders, they want specific tactical feedback around communication, around executive presence. So these very tangible skills. Whereas what we learn as coaches is that deeper work around identity, around energy blockers, like those are some of the things that actually hold people back. And so with my clients, I aim to do both. We conduct an assessment, we see where that person wants to go. We build in an element of teaching and even role playing sometimes for the executive presence piece. So, like how you prepare for a big meeting, how you make sure that you show up in these more high stress environments. But the sessions themselves are coaching sessions, which means that the client, as we know, we believe they have all the answers. I'm asking a lot of empowering questions to make sure that they're clarifying their own thinking and coming to solutions to their own challenges that they face. And then I bring in many of the coaching principles that I was taught through IPEC or through working with other coaches in the past within those sessions to help that person get to where they want to go.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you found? Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, I'll just leave it at that because I'm sure there are many. There are many because it's a very technical field, you know.
It is, but often I would say the real challenges that people face are the personal challenges. So the number one problem that I find most people in tech face is imposter syndrome. So they believe that everyone around them knows everything, and that despite how much experience they have, how many skills they have, that they're just not up to date or they're not up to par. And I think especially with working with more mid-career professionals who struggle to speak up in meetings or be comfortable in these settings presenting to executives, a lot of it is confidence building, is showing or providing them space to understand how competent they are, then choosing how they want to show up in those situations, role playing it within this safe space, which is the coaching session. And so now when they go to that big meeting, they're showing up with that confidence and they immediately see the impact. I can think of a client that I worked with recently who she actually was based in Montreal. And so she was French speaking first. And so that language barrier added another level of difficulty of communication. But over 6 months through these sessions, understanding the things that were holding her back, she ended up taking on more and more responsibility at work and then running these incredible presentations for the executive team, which ultimately led to her being promoted. So imposter syndrome is a big one, but I can speak to more as well.
That's amazing, big imposter syndrome. I would never think that because from us, our people who don't know anything, we're going, oh my God, they know so much, we'll never catch up. So
Right.
they should know what the regular people think about them. They're like tech
Yeah.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing about the technology industry right now is we're going through more change than almost any period in history with AI and the way that organizations are shifting as well. Even the main job of an executive, which used to be purely team management and making sure people got things done. Usually, the executives would be evaluated based off of the size of their team. Like, let's say you have 100 people reporting to you. That means that you have a lot of influence and you're valued by the organization. But in this day and age, tech companies are downsizing. Executives are expected to get deep in the work, as they say themselves. So it was very rare that someone with 10 years of experience in their career, let's say as a marketer, would actually be running ads themselves, or as a designer, for example, creating designs themselves again. So now you have to have this fluency both in very hands-on work, then understanding points of leverage. So where can you bring in these AI tools or AI systems to scale your work? And then now finally org design, which is what is that mix of technology and people that are best suited to actually accomplish your goals? And previously, it leaned far more towards the people side. And today, it is far more this integration of technology and people and systems thinking for building these processes that you can either automate through AI or have new hires take over. So as a result of all of that change, especially over the last 2 years in 2026 specifically, everyone in tech feels some aspect of imposter syndrome. And so I find that coaching is a very unique way of solving that for people.
Very needed also. That's confusing to me because I'm thinking the only people safe now are the tech people because,
Mm.
see AI taking over everything. So wouldn't we need a whole bunch of tech people to keep that thing going? Or are the techs going to be taking care of the techs? I mean, are the AIs going to be really?
Right. But this is the question that everyone is trying to answer right now, right? So computer science used to be one of the most, call it recession-proof careers because there's more and more demand for technology. The difference now, though, is that with AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude or even Copilot, um, many senior engineers, instead of hiring junior engineers, are just using these AI tools to automate what they normally would have handed off to that entry level person.
Oh my gosh.
And so that making it more difficult for entry level workers, like fresh grads from top universities, to get these jobs. Plus, many of those tech companies overhired during the pandemic. They raised a lot of venture capital dollars and then ended up having to downsize ultimately, has led to so much volatility that many people are actually leaving the tech industry entirely and going to things like the trades that have more of that human component. So everyone working in tech today, their question is, okay, do I stay working in tech? And now the expectation is that I need to deliver more output or more work for the same, call it hours, because you have access to all of these tools. Or do you find an industry that maybe is lower competition, but because of the skills that you've built, because of the tools you know how to use, because of the way that you know how to communicate, you can actually excel in? So it really is this big question, I would say, that creates a fair amount of anxiety for most people working in tech. But like anything, change is the only constant. And so navigating change is another big aspect of the clients that I work with and supporting them in their work today.
Wow, when AI is taking over tech jobs, it's like, okay, that's got to be the that's got to be the end here. I don't know. I couldn't understand because I heard Google was laying off and all of these
They
big
are.
companies, and it's like, what? Why? They're also AI driven, but of course, AI can do the right now the low tier jobs. Who knows what they can do come tomorrow? Who knows? But
Exactly, exactly. One concept that I think in the world that we're moving into that's really important as well is this concept of a portfolio career, especially in tech. So if you think about the way that most careers were followed, it was this linear path. You work for one company, you stay there for a very long period of time. You have a lot of loyalty there. Maybe you have a great team, and every few years you continue to move up the ladder. An AI first world is very different than that because there's so much volatility in both these larger companies, the startups, many aspects of the industry. What many of the best tech operators or tech employees are moving into is these portfolio careers. And so a portfolio means that you may have a full-time job, but you also have a side hustle. Or you also volunteer within your community so that you can showcase more skills. And then it's almost like you are, to use an athletic analogy, I used to play varsity basketball at Mio when I was there. You're a free agent and you have a set of skills and you can almost loan them out and monetize to different companies. So think instead of being a VP marketing and that being your career North Star, your goal, now because you've built these skills, you can become a marketing consultant and you can work with five different tech companies at a time working the same way that you would for one company, but now you have more exposure. And then when you finish each of these contracts, if you're good at what you do, you get referred to other people that those people know. And so the idea of the portfolio career, many people in earlier years would think, oh, it's either you're an entrepreneur, you're your own boss, that's it, or you work for one of these companies. But I believe the world is moving to a place where those paths are blended more and more, which is why I tend to work with both types of individuals, both the entrepreneurs that want to scale and move forward on their own, but also those tech employees, because at a certain point, they may end up crossing paths and moving to the other side, depending on what is guiding them at that point in time.
wow. I knew you were doing a valuable service, but I'm thinking now, and just in my career time, the rug has been pulled out so many times. 2008, the financial decline,
Yeah.
2020, the pandemic, and now Lord only knows what this is that's coming up. But so coaches are so needed. There is still, and no matter how much AI you have, there are still humans with all the problems. How can people get in touch? How do you administer this? Is it face to face? Do you have online
Mhm.
programs? Do you how do you parlay this information out there and let people know you're there and
Yeah,
the
great
problems that you're
question.
solving? Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So I primarily do coaching virtually. So through Zoom, I find that virtual coaching keeps my clients very comfortable in their own spaces. And because they're very often busy, it's easy to fit an hour session either in between meetings or at a time where they can slow down, think like a Friday or a Wednesday, sometime where they can take a step back and focus on these broader issues. I do in person sometimes. So that would be closer to once a quarter. So if I'm working with a client that's either New York or sometimes even San Francisco or Toronto, which are where the majority of my clients are, in person is still super, super important, especially for these deeper coaching sessions or deeper challenges that someone is trying to unblock. So I try to offer that as an option for my clients. I'm more than happy to travel to where they are. I'm fairly mobile, especially within those specific areas. But I would say the majority is virtual on Zoom. You also have unlimited access to me. So I work typically on monthly retainer. So throughout the month, email, Slack is often a communication tool that tech employees or entrepreneurs use. Text. So if there is a big meeting or something that's more time sensitive that we need to prepare for, then you text me, we hop on a call, we work through that situation, and then we move forward alongside that weekly or biweekly coaching, which is the primary structure in which I deliver the work.
Wow. And is you say one-on-one? Do you also do groups things? Uh,
Mhm.
do you have any seminars? I'd like to be a part of it. Do you have any seminars coming up or anything like that? I mean,
Yeah,
are you
that's a
considering
great
that? Yeah.
great question. The majority of my work at the moment is one-on-one, and that's because I find that I can go deepest there. That said, at the moment with the partners that I work with, so Next Canada is one of the accelerators that I mentor at, or with McGill University, I both offer more of a call it group engagement style model, as well as these specific presentations or seminars. So at a tech conference called Startup Fest recently that happened in Montreal, I hosted two sessions, one of which was on energy management for high performers. So touching on some of those systems and habits that we described earlier so that you can show up as that best version of yourself, avoiding burnout. And then two is leadership frameworks for tech operators. So how do you build a high performing team? And I found especially that second one for either the entrepreneur that wants to build a culture of high performance at their org and is looking for specific tools, systems, or methods of communication to build that culture that really, really resonated. So I plan
Please
to do
keep doing
more of
what you're
that in
doing.
the
We
upcoming
are running out of
months.
time, but potentialgrowth.com. You can find and we can find Edgar there and keep doing what you're doing. My goodness, I had no idea the scope of what you're doing. Thank you for being a guest on the coaching game.
Of course, yeah, it's principledgrowth.com
I'm sorry.
for
What did I say?
anyone.
Potential principal.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
that's a good name too,
it
though.
is.
That's a good
And use
name
it for your
too.
next endeavor. Yeah.
That's right. So principledgrowth.com, and you can find me on social media anywhere, Edgar Brown, or I am Edgar Brown on Twitter, on Instagram, LinkedIn, just Edgar-Brown. Always happy to connect with people that are interested in becoming better leaders or growing into the best versions of themselves. So happy to connect.
Well, you're not out there hiding, thank heavens, because we need you. Thank you, Edgar.
Thank you, Laurie.